World War II, the most devastating conflict in all of human history, a war that ultimately claimed the lives of more than 70 million people. But how did it actually begin? Why did it break out at all? And what exactly happened during those 6 long and brutal years? Let's take a closer look and break it down simply, so it all truly makes sense. It all began with World War I. The war ended in 1918, leaving Europe exhausted, broken, and deeply scarred. Germany, which had lost, was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, and it was brutally harsh. They had to pay enormous reparations, give up most of their army, and surrender significant parts of their territory. That humiliation, that misery, and that anger kept boiling beneath the surface for the next 20 years, waiting to erupt again. Then came the Great Depression. Mass unemployment, poverty, desperation everywhere. And when society falls to the very bottom, people desperately cling to anyone who offers simple answers and a sense of hope. Adolf Hitler promised the German people that he would restore their honor, their order, and their pride, that he would lead them out of chaos and return Germany to greatness. And people chose to believe him. In 1933, he rose to power as Chancellor of Germany, and soon after he turned himself into a dictator. Within just a few years, Nazi Germany had rearmed itself to the teeth. Hitler ignored the restrictions on the military, marched troops into the Rhineland, and annexed Austria. And Europe? It stayed silent. Leaders knew he was openly breaking the agreements, but they hoped that if they gave in just a little more, he would finally stop. But Hitler never stopped. He always wanted more. In 1938, representatives of France and Britain signed the Munich Agreement with him. Czechoslovakia was forced to hand over the Sudetenland without a single shot being fired. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain then returned to London and declared proudly that he had secured peace for our time. He had no idea that, in reality, he had just opened the door to the most destructive war the world had ever seen. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, swiftly with a brand new tactic called Blitzkrieg, lightning war. This time, Europe could no longer remain silent. Britain and France declared war, and the Second World War had truly begun. What at first looked like a European conflict soon turned into a global nightmare. Germany advanced in every direction and allied itself with Italy and Japan. The Soviet Union, which had at first signed a pact with Hitler, invaded eastern Poland and occupied the Baltic states. Europe was burning. Germany controlled almost the entire continent, stretching from Paris all the way to Kiev. Bombs rained from the skies, the seas filled with sunken ships, and in Africa, tanks thundered across the desert. In 1940, Britain stood alone, fighting Germany in the air during the Battle of Britain. London burned under heavy bombing, but Hitler never managed to conquer the island. A year later, Hitler turned against the Soviet Union. It was the largest invasion in history, Operation Barbarossa. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers marched toward Moscow and Leningrad, and with them came death, destruction, and hunger. And then, in December 1941, Japan attacked the American base at Pearl Harbor. The United States, which until then had stayed out of the war, suddenly had no choice. They entered the conflict. And what began in Europe now spread to every continent of the world. A letter from the days when war spared no one. My dearest Marie, this day the sirens wailed once more. It is no longer only about the front, not merely about the Germans nor the Japanese. Now it is everywhere, in the snow, in the desert, and even here at home. Today I watched as people ran for the shelter, and some, alas, did not reach it in time. With each passing day, hundreds of souls are lost, and though we dwell on the far side of the world, it seems that none of us may remain untouched by this war any longer. Amidst all of this, one of the greatest crimes in history was unfolding: the Holocaust. The Nazis carried out the systematic extermination of the Jewish people, children, women, the elderly. People vanished onto trains that were never meant to return. In total, 6 million Jews were murdered, along with millions of others who did not fit into the Nazis' vision of the world. Diary entry.
They told us we were being sent to work. My mother held my hand. I have not seen her since.
Excerpt from the Diary of Anne Frank.
And in spite of everything, I still believe that people are, at heart, good. I write these words today, though I do not know what tomorrow will bring.
The turning point came in the winter of 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad. Brutal fighting, freezing cold, hunger, and death at every step. For the first time, the Germans did not advance. This time, they were defeated. On the Eastern Front, the tide began to turn. The Soviet army started to push them back. On the other side of the world, in the Pacific, the Americans defeated the Japanese at Midway. And from that moment, the fronts slowly but surely began to move closer to Berlin. Letter from a soldier at Stalingrad.
Frost gathers even on my beard as I breathe. I can no longer feel my hands, but still, we hold the line. For if we give way, then all is lost.
The Allied forces landed in Normandy. On the beaches of France took place the largest seaborne invasion in history. Tens of thousands of soldiers faced shelling, mines, and barbed wire. Every single yard of sand was paid for in blood. The Western Front had been opened. The Western Allies, Americans, British, Canadians, and many others, began advancing through France, Belgium, and toward the German border. From the east, the Red Army was closing in. After months of savage fighting, Germany was caught in a vice. In the west, the liberation of Paris. In the east, the liberation of Warsaw. Allied bombs rained down upon Berlin. The German defenses were collapsing. April 30th, 1945. Adolf Hitler took his own life in a Berlin bunker. May 8th, 1945. Germany surrendered. Across Europe, people celebrated the end of the war. But on the other side of the planet, the fighting was not yet over. Japan refused to surrender. The battles for the islands, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, showed that the end would not come easily. The United States faced a terrible decision: how to finish the war without losing hundreds of thousands more lives. And so, on August 6, 1945, they dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima. In a matter of seconds, nearly the entire city was destroyed, leaving tens of thousands dead. When even that was not enough to bring unconditional surrender, another bomb followed 3 days later, this time on Nagasaki. The consequences were devastating. Crushed by this destruction, and with the Soviet Union entering the war against Japan, Emperor Hirohito announced the end of hostilities on August 15th. The formal surrender was signed on September 2nd, 1945, aboard the American battleship USS Missouri. With that, World War II came to a close, the deadliest conflict in human history. It lasted 6 years, claimed millions of lives, and caused immeasurable destruction. The war was over. But the world would never be the same. More than 70 million people had died. Millions of families were left homeless. Cities lay in ruins. And people looked at the rubble and asked, why did we allow this to happen? An authentic memory of a witness, When the war ended, we poured into the streets. We embraced strangers. The sun was shining, but tears ran down our faces, tears of joy and of sorrow, all at once. The war criminals were brought to trial. The United Nations was founded, an organization meant to prevent another global conflict. But the pain and the scars remained. World War II has been over for more than 80 years. Yet we still feel its consequences today, and even as the number of survivors dwindles, we must not forget, because memory is our only defense against history repeating itself. If you want more videos about events that must never be forgotten, subscribe or leave a like, and let's keep uncovering together the stories that shaped our world. And remember, for evil to triumph, it takes only one thing: that good people do nothing.